Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington. I'd like to call to order the Everett City Council meeting of March 15th, 2023. The City Council meets all requirements of the State of Washington Open Public Meetings Act. Community members are welcome to join either in person, remote, via Zoom, or by calling in. For those who wish to participate in the future via Zoom, you'll find the instructions to register for public comment on the City of Everett website under the City Council Department. Please note, we do not allow comments of any kind on any kind of campaigning, whether for or against ballot measures or candidates running for office. We also do not accept comments focused on personal matters that are unrelated to city business. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin.
Excused?
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Here.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Tui.
Excused?
Councilmember Fossey. Here. Councilmember Schwab.
Here.
Councilmember Vogely.
Here.
President Stonecipher.
Here. Councilmember Zarlingo, would you please lead us in the flag salute? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Councilmember Fossey, can you read the land acknowledgement this evening?
The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Shahobs people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. And we will move to our approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of March 8th, 2023?
Councilmember Ryan moves approval of the minutes of March 8th.
Councilmember Schwab, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey.
Abstain.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes. Good evening, Angie. Do we have anyone signed up to speak for public comment?
Good evening, President Stonecipher. We have no public comment tonight.
Thank you. I think we have Gary Clark and Wendy Pushbag here this evening to provide a presentation for the Economic Alliance of Snohomish County. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me this evening. I'm pleased to be here to present a proposal to the council and to the city tied to Economic Alliance Snohomish County's efforts. I'm going to change. All right. Okay. I am set. So first and foremost, I'm here to represent Economic Alliance Snohomish County. We have operated through 2011 that initiated from a merger with the Everett Chamber at one point in time, South Everett Chamber of Commerce as well, and an economic development organization for Snohomish County. This is our opportunity to come back home, so to speak. And so what I'm providing to you today is a request to support us in relocating and rent assistance for a downtown Everett office location. First and foremost, our initial goal in this process is to navigate an opportunity to provide some vibrancy and reemerge downtown. While my PowerPoint says the goal of the request is $250,000, the actual goal of that request is $300,000. The goal of this is tied to the reestablishment of the Everett Chamber of Commerce under EASC, and also the expansion of coordinated services for Everett-specific efforts. As council is probably aware, Economic Alliance Snohomish County has worked to the tune of 500 projects in the last 2.5 years. We've actually added that in the last 10 to 12 years of about 5,000 efforts that have taken at the capacity of about 1,400 jobs in the last 3.5 years, and just over 5,000 jobs in the last 10 years. That is in efforts of economic development, recruitment, and retention and expansion. Our goal has been to convene, facilitate, and lead economic development efforts throughout the county, but we realize that the core function, the spoke, the wheel, the hub, is in Everett. This is a quick slide sharing the scope of our organization currently. While we have desires and designs on expanding so that we can make sure that our organization is fully functioning for the efforts and needs of our business community, our small and large businesses and entrepreneurs. Our goal really is to make sure that we can reach all points of commerce in Snohomish County, but specifically in the core hub of Everett. As you can see here, Wendy Poispeg is our VP of Economic Development, and also my teammate who is here tonight. She will lead and spearhead the extension of our Economic Development Partnership by adding staffing under the Economic Development Department. Location-wise, downtown Everett is a vibrant place. I played in the Everett 3-on-3 last year. Partially tore my Achilles, but had an amazing time. We know that the vibrancy here has emerged before, and we want to be a part of that resurgence here downtown. The location is Pioneer Place. It's 2822 Colby Avenue. The office space is the bottom, thank you. The office space is the bottom right side of the screen here that you can see. You can see there's 14,000 square feet of the office space available in this location. Our desire is, number one, to find this prime location accessible to businesses, that they have a prime location to access us, to reach us for resources, to know that that is a seminal spot and location for businesses who want to relocate from out of state, out of country, to Everett and Snohomish County. Right now, we're in a location that is not conducive to rolling out the red carpet, so to speak, to local or businesses from afar. Our goal is also to provide some technical assistance, possibly a small incubator space for businesses trying to emerge themselves, and also to establish what they have in this space, which is the Sky Lounge for hosting networking events as well. We want to collaborate with existing entities that are doing this work, and we've already initiated those conversations as well. Just another clip of what the visual looks like inside on 2822 Colby Avenue. And a few examples of the outside patio space as well. Now, just to reconvene on some key items, Economic Alliance is not simply an events organization. We are a countywide chamber of commerce and the ADO organization for the county. There are over 40 ADO organizations in the state. We realize that Everett has over 10,000 business licenses and growing. We realize that as a county and including Everett, the growth in population has continued to trend forward, and that means that the needs continue to be at a robust base. So our business efforts internally include Small Business Development Center, Procurement Technical Assistance Counselors, which is called PTAC. We also lead the 5-state regional program, which is called Northwest Small Business Transportation Resource Center, Snohomish STEM, and Career Connect Washington. All of these pieces are internal in EASC, but they are free services to all businesses in Everett. Our goal for the Everett Chamber of Commerce, it is just to re-establish something that is a connection for small businesses and large to say, this is my home, this is my house, this is my networking group and connection point for resources and services. At the peak, it had over 700 members in the local Everett Chamber. And as we convened as the Economic Alliance, some of those members never came back. And so there's an opportunity for us to reconvene with those members, businesses that need that effort and support. Alternatively, we want to make sure that we are collaborating and extending our hand out. We will partner directly with Engage Everett, which has done an amazing job. We will lump them under Economic Alliance and have support there for business-related technical assistance. And through the Everett Chamber, we realized that we'll also have an opportunity to create some engagement for our BIPOC community that may not have been able to access services in a meaningful way. So we want to make sure that we look at not only South Everett, but a direct staffer that can focus similarly on Everett. This is a quick visual of what our staff is working on to develop a visual and a brand connected to the city's existing brand, but also Economic Alliance's existing brand. As you can see, we know we're the aerospace capital of the world, and so we wanted to make sure that our location is clear here. So you see Everett Chamber of Commerce, powered by Economic Alliance, Snohomish County. And finally, I am really excited about the potential to relocate downtown. The reasoning behind our ask is that years before, or a year before COVID hit, there was actually an agreement made before I even arrived at Economic Alliance and my team. That was a long tenured lease. And so with that, we want to make sure that we can offset that cost and still move to a place that we can have stronger impact. So our ask is $300,000 to help support us in this space using the American Recovery Plan Act funds, and hoping that this idea that is spawned from the city can really help catalyze small business growth, expand to those folks who are underserved, but also create a vibrant downtown. Thank you.
Thank you. And is that all for your presentation?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Let's have questions. Does any council members have questions for Gary?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Who's hands first? Thank you, Gary. Good to see you. Appreciate the presentation and really excited about this opportunity. A couple questions for you. So you had mentioned that you guys have been working to engage with existing organizations that are already doing the work, and that's a big concern that I have as well. I know, especially in South Everett, there's been some groups that have worked for a very long time to establish themselves, and so I'd love to see a way to make sure that all of their hard work isn't run over, or that it can be centered and their voices are centered as things move forward. So if you could expand a little bit more on those efforts, I'd appreciate hearing it.
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. Our goal is to amplify the efforts of our partners. That's why we exist, to create convening, but not to capitalize on others' needs, but to be exemplary in supporting their work. And so we have considered not only this particular partnership, but to collaborate in South Everett as deeply as we can. We know that the metrics are low as far as what support has spawned itself into growth. And so we want to make sure that we're making relationship building opportunities. And so that is a key cog in why we're developing an actual role, someone that has complete eyes on engaging these partners. And so if we can do that, then we can also start to look at some of our BIPOC community that just completely needs to build relationship trust. And so I think this is an opportunity for us to do that. And we're calling it the Chamber Partnership because we don't think it's simply just Everett. It expands its reach to other spaces, but Everett has to be the core and the strongest piece.
Thank you. I was also curious, speaking of partnerships, what a potential collaboration or collaborative partnership with the Downtown Everett Association would look like.
We are extremely excited. I visited with Liz maybe a month or so ago. She was aware of our direction here. And then
Liz Stenning.
Liz Stenning,
Yeah.
The other Liz.
the head of the Downtown Association. And then we have a follow-up meeting coming up just to figure out how to further collaborate. There's some excitement there. Again, this is about partnering and making sure that we can capitalize on each other's strengths and benefit there. The connection point might actually provide an opportunity for a plan that navigates them being a part of the sub board that would be developed through the Everett Chamber. So our desire is to make sure that everyone has a voice. And if Liz and her organization would like to be a part of that sub board, I think it's an opportunity that we'd love to have.
Great. One more question for you. What are some of the lessons learned from the last time that the Everett Chamber folded?
Yeah, so what I've heard, and since I was not here, I wish I was, I think the opportunity is to expand partnership and collaboration and to make sure that everyone has a voice and it's not just a siloed effort. And I think right now you can see Economic Alliance is not focused on just one particular item or agenda or focus. We want to collaborate, and we've been doing that work since 2011, and I think that's the shift. And that's the genesis as to why Economic Alliance was developed, was because there was that siloing, there wasn't that partnership, there was funding in some spots, but not in other spots. And so we really think of bringing this together as a full, one singular fist. And so I think that's the shift, is that we want to have everyone's voice at the table, not just large businesses, but small. We want to make sure that they have leadership opportunities. And so that's really the transition. So it's a great question.
Great. Thanks, Gary, and thanks, Wendy, too.
Councilmember Vogely.
Nice to see you again. Thank you for that presentation. We talked a little bit earlier, but, you know, not that other Liz. And so I have a few questions. I know you've spoken about BIPOC community and South Everett and having, you know, Everett Chamber of Commerce underneath the umbrella of EASC. Is there also thoughts about an actual Hispanic or other language grouping under that umbrella as well?
Absolutely. I think there has been, in the past, attempts to do that in the county, and it hasn't had the direction that it needed or the connection to a larger organization to push it. We've been engaged by several folks. I can't share everything right now, but I will say that there is a convening happening to develop a specific effort to see if it's feasible to move ahead and have a partnership piece similar to the Everett Chamber, stating it as a Hispanic chamber, adding a staffer to focus and build relationships, because it's really, the key is building those relationships. We could label an organization anything, but if we don't start to establish relationships, we cannot do that. And so with Wendy's help, she'll be kind of the supervisor and manager of these partnership pieces, but that is our goal immediately in the next 6 to 9 months to move this forward. And so we already have a catalyst for meetings happening next month on that behalf. And so it really comes down to funding. If we can get funding to add the right staffer in that place, I think we can blossom and build a sub-board for the Hispanic Chamber.
Thank you very much for more thoroughly explaining that. And as it comes to the lease, okay, so previous to your directorship or CEO-ship, sorry, I'm not sure which one it is, a 10-year lease was contracted. You got 7 years left. So essentially, you are asking for help from the city to, is it like finances just to relocate? Is it finances, because like I know that you can't one day be in the building and the next day sublet it to another entity. So is it like a month of rent? Is it, can you just explain how that works? Because I know, well, I've never been allowed to break a lease because that is costly, but I think that subletting is different.
Absolutely.
So, more information, please?
Absolutely, excellent question, and I think that's the key, the conundrum for us as an organization is that long extended lease. If we were to attempt to break it in one turn, that would be an exorbitant cost. What our desire is to relocate to a location with a rival lease number, which is what we found, but also better impact, and offsetting that by finding the sublease option. And so we're working with SmartCap, which is our current lease location, to try to make that happen. But before we can do that, the funds would support not only just this year's portion of that lease agreement for the new space, but it would help us to have relocation expenses to downtown Everett, and also to not forget the Everett Chamber staff role that we really think is key to solidifying that. If we just moved to downtown Everett and slapped a label on it and said Everett Chamber, it wouldn't be as successful as having someone that each of you could say, that's our point person every day. And so this is a combination of pieces. It is very important that we have the connection point to funding the relocation as well. So it's not just the lease piece, but it's the actual relocation. And actually, Dan, thank you for the assist. It's actually a 2 years of rent piece that we're trying to extend this to. So not only 2023, but next year, in the effort to try to find the subleasing piece, but not have to break that lease.
Okay,
Thank you.
I could get into a conversation about this, so I don't want to usurp all of my time. So maybe Dawn, and then maybe I can come back? Is that,
Councilmember Schwab?
sorry, Councilmember Schwab.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation that you gave us earlier. I think there was maybe one thing I'd like you to talk about that I thought was important, and that was the actual plans and the use that you have for the space in downtown Everett as a connective piece of your strategic plan. If you could talk a little bit more about what you're going to use that space for, because it's more than just an office.
Absolutely, absolutely. As I mentioned before, in our mission, as it was developed, is for Economic Alliance, Snohomish County, and the vision for that Everett Chamber piece is to be a convener. So while we say it's a space for office, our desire is that it's open to our business community, that they find that as a core location, a hub space for services. And so as we develop it, we want to have an open space. Wendy's working right now to develop a vision as to how that looks. But if we can have potential incubator options for businesses to locate there, that's our total long-range vision. And while we're only looking at one level right now, there is an available level at the top floor that would be helpful as well to convene meetings. We're not asking for that at this point. We're going to try to work our butts off to solidify that core bottom level first. But it is an opportunity for resource meetings, for businesses to come and get technical assistance, for businesses to host separate meetings. We do monthly, annual, weekly meetings, and so this is a convening space for all of the business core community.
And I'll just ask a few questions, and then I'll let Councilmember Vogely return. So, Gary, thank you. This is really helpful. I'm glad to see that somebody might want to come into this building. It's been vacant for a long time, I think, since Cascade Bank went out of it. Tell me, how many employees do you have in your organization that would be occupying this space?
So I can tell you that we're right at 13, but we have 2 additional staffers, and if it's okay for me to pull this up on screen again, I'll do it really quickly. It just might be helpful for you to see the visual.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't see it. So those are all of your employees, not just the management layer?
Yes, and
Got
then
it.
you see so the highlight in the blue, those are the Small Business Development Center folks who lease a space in our offices, but are also a part of our staff because they do direct on-the-ground business assistance.
Okay, great. And how many of these are you working remotely still, or how many of these people will actually be reporting to the office in the given day?
We currently have a hybrid model, so there are 2 days a week that staff are remote usually, but some of our staff have been back in the office every day, like a Wendy and others, and myself. And so our goal is to be back in the offices. We kind of trended slowly in the first quarter of the year, But our desire is to be 100% back in the office.
Yeah, obviously, because for an advantage for the city is to have people walking around downtown,
Yes.
getting coffee and lunch and stuff. Okay. And so under your purpose, I love to see these stats that you're, basically what you're trying to accomplish, number of jobs, household income, number of businesses. Do you have those stats that you could share, not right now, but at some point, how the city of Everett has fared on these benchmarks, I would say, over the last, compared to the county?
Absolutely. I think in collaboration with the City Economic Development Office and Dan, we could probably give you some more direct, specific numbers.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I just
absolutely.
haven't seen those for a long time,
Yeah.
so that would be helpful for me to understand kind of how we're doing. And then, having maybe been the only council member who was here when the chamber went out, I'll just kind of go through a little of the history as I remember it. I can't remember the precursor of the Economic Alliance, maybe it was Snohomish County Economic Development Association or
You got
something.
it.
They maybe joined with the chamber, and then Economic Alliance was sort of born out of that. And at the time, the leadership of the Economic Alliance really just decided that it wasn't worth the effort to continue serving small businesses. And the model didn't pencil, the dues that they were charging weren't making it worth their while. And so that was the part that they disbanded in favor of really basically focusing all their efforts on big, heavy manufacturing and mostly aerospace. I think that was almost solely what they spent their time on, which was fine, except that all those small businesses who had enjoyed their chamber were disappointed about that. And I'm assuming that they've all kind of moved on and figured out how to run their business without you. Where are you finding this demand for a chamber to be reestablished? I mean, I do hear people anecdotally talk about it, but are you assured, do you have a business plan for this that makes sense?
Absolutely.
That, that businesses are saying, yeah, we can pay these dues and this will be good for us?
I think that's an excellent question. I would say that my counterpart, Wendy Poisbeg, and some of our other team have been in several different events on a regular basis. Engage Everett is one of those where the conversation has bubbled up on a regular basis about having an Everett Chamber focus and businesses looking for an opportunity to re-engage, especially kind of moving out of that post-COVID realm where there's still needs for assistance, but some of our businesses that are new, not really finding a place to go, knowing that they can go to the city offices, but they're looking for a place to go for commerce-specific efforts. And so I think that what we found is a outcry for solidifying a space for our existing businesses, and as those new businesses and new residents come to town with a vision for their businesses, that it's an easy direction point. Hey, Economic Alliance, Everett Chamber, it's right down the street. If you want to meet with them, we can now walk across the street and meet with Dan and get some wisdom from him. We can also point them to the county. We can point them to your offices as well. And so this is just a more instrumental approach to make sure that we are right in the close proximity to all services.
Okay, I like to hear that. And then, Liz, thank you for asking about what the money was going to be used for. I was curious about that myself. And one of the other concerns over the years with the Economic Alliance has really been the proportion of government and public money that's being paid into it. And as we have understood it over time, most of these economic or associations are funded mostly through private businesses, and then the government pays a small part, and we've been really lopsided on that. Approximately what percentage of your revenue now on your operating revenue is coming from government? And I noticed on your website, about half of your board members are from public agencies and other governments. So that kind of implies to me that the leadership and the momentum is still very much public money driven.
Well, while the board leadership looks that way, our goal and tied to our bylaws is to make sure that we're kind of on a 60-40 split there. And so this is why the push is so heavy for small businesses to re-engage, to join us. In the last year or so, we've had 40 new businesses join the Alliance. And I think our desire is really to make sure that shift is happening. Actually, today, our executive team and board was talking about how we relocate our, for lack of a better term, seasoned board of trustees for new small businesses. And so I think your point is very valid and true. We try to hold to that 60-40 split. I'd say a large percentage of our funds are investment based, and then we have some larger investors. But our city partnerships, we actually only have a small number of municipal businesses or organizations that contribute. We'd like to see that balance continue to go in the business perspective.
Okay. And so you're asking us for $300,000. What's the total cost of your lease relocation, and what percentage of the money are you requesting from the city, and where else would other money be coming from?
So that portion of the cost is built into that total number that I've given you. That $300,000 would cover that 2-year gap that we have. It would also cover the relocation expense. And as an aside, it would be a nudge forward for us establishing a hired staffer for the Everett Chamber piece. So in total, that $300,000 would cover the full movement for EASC at this time.
Okay, so you don't have any other partners? It would just be City of Everett ARPA money?
We would be going directly with the City of Everett and the council to say that this is a council-driven move to support us and partner in this one-time expense, with the desire of us showing you some return on that investment through business growth, establishment of events and programs, but also resources. And so I think if you look at it in that vein, you'll see that for every dollar that we are given, we see that we are at least $8 to $10 ahead on that as far as where you stretch that. So today, for example, Wendy Poisbeg and Department of Commerce announced an event or activity that took place in Stanwood, which was actually a no-meat facility that was landed. And this was hard work for 6 or 7 months of Wendy and our team and partners with the city of Stanwood to land that piece. Now, if you think of the fact that Stanwood has a small investment in EASC, the ROI is a $20 million investment from a business that Wendy and myself and other partners have helped to push forward. That's the benefit for drawing EASC and now the Everett Chamber to downtown.
Yeah, and we've been a strong member for a long time. And then my last comment, I'll just say, your logo looks nice, but again, it's very aerospace focused, and I think a lot of the chamber, I mean, that was sort of the rub with the chamber members in the first place, was that you had gone totally aerospace focused, and when I think of the chamber type members, it's a lot of the service businesses and other businesses that are serving, our community, but not necessarily. I think a lot of the aerospace gets caught up in other, they're a little bit bigger.
Absolutely, and I think that's a fair comment. I would say, however, that internationally, globally, Everett is known as the home for aerospace. I believe that Everett has its roots there. And so I think we can be proud of our history while also recognizing that we have work to do to build up our other industries. And so I think that is the opportunity that we've heard from Dan Ernestey at the city. We've heard that from some of the businesses that exist and attend Engage Everett or the Downtown Association. We realize that we are at a fever pitch right now for new industries, energy, clean tech, life science, all of that bubbling up here, advanced manufacturing. So I agree with you. We were willing to work with the city to make sure that the vision for that visual is collective and not simply EASC.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think we obviously rely a lot on aerospace, but, I mean, in our own self-interest, we have to diversify our economy more than we have. And I think that's been a struggle for us over the years. Of course, it gets diversified without our even trying to do it, because if Boeing makes a move, sometimes it's not as big a part of our community. We've seen that. Okay, that's all. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Yes. You did get to a lot of the points, so thank you for that, Council President Stonecipher. Just really quickly, when you say 60-40 split, what's the 60, what's the 40?
So our business side is 60. Our 40 is the municipal government
Okay.
space. And so, for example, our singular key investor would be the Boeing company. It would be other entities to that ilk. For example, we just recently brought on Everett Clinic, which used to be the catalyst for our origin story with Rick Cooper.
Yes.
And so these are the companies that actually make up that 60 and have made it up in the past, Providence and those. So that's the heavy end.
Okay, just, that was
Great
quick.
question.
Thank you. And this is a finite amount of money. You are asking for this amount of money for these specific things, which include, I'm just going to reiterate, rent, personnel, and movement of location. And I will also just say that where you are located right now, I only know because my child's friend lives over there. And I was like, oh, yeah, oh, really? You're located there? I mean, it's a great place for business that isn't in this arena. So, quite honestly, I mean, the visual and the idea and the amount of possible economic vitality that a center such as the ASC with the Everett Chamber is a beautiful vision for downtown. And then, so, you know, you've got that going for you and us. What, you mentioned, you know, like, you put $1 here, you're gonna get $10 back. How can you prove that in 3 years? You know, are we gonna have some, how are you gonna prove that to us if we say yes?
So I think this is the best part of our job, is really seeing the ripple effect of not only landing new emerging companies, but seeing a small business go from 10 employees to 20 or 30 or 40. And so that's how we'll show that. Myself and Wendy and others, we will come back to council. We'll give an update on where we're at on our metrics. We already have that mandate with our collaboration with the city. So we want to extend that to you all to say, hold us to those tenets and those metrics to say, we want to see return on our investment. We'll come back. Actually, later in April, we'll be doing our economic development annual update, and you'll hear an annual report from last year that shows you kind of the ROI. So we'll do that on a regular basis as is, but I think us just being in downtown, showing our business retention expansion efforts, attraction, and also resources, we track that already, and I think you're going to be really impressed with what we can do by being here and not in kind of the industrial warehousing space that you mentioned. So.
And I think finally, there's two finalists. It's almost as if it's like, hey, let's create another city department because we're gonna have a director and a new person that we're paying for. And so this is not that, I understand, you know, it's not like we're gonna own you as a company. So I guess I just want to be absolutely, it just seems a little bit weird, you know? We're interviewing you here at a public meeting before like the whole big part of the agenda. And it's really great conversation and I love it. But it's just also like, that's cool. All right, all right. And so it's a grant. It's not some thing that you'll have to pay us back if you don't show us that it's going well. And I think that this would also be, there are often times that people complain about all of the services that Everett has, right? Well, and you can read between the lines there. And this would be quite good to show people that, yeah, Everett has all the services economically, not just mental healthily and all of that stuff. So I just wanted to put that out there. And thank you very much. It's been very informative. I don't know when you're going to get an answer from us. I bet that has something to do with my council president over here. But thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for
Thank
being
you.
here and helping us understand what you're asking. I think we'll have to probably talk with administration about this. I'm not sure where we're at on this request from
So
the
I think
administrative
whether it's
side.
tonight or at a near future meeting, I think if council members give us the nod that this is the direction they'd like to go with 300,000 of our ARPA funds, then in a future resolution, we can codify that. We'll be coming back in Q2. We're coming next week, but that's really already been baked, that resolution. But the nod gives, it's the same, it serves the same purpose, which is then when we bring the resolution to you, there's already a sense, and the Economic Alliance already has a sense that this will be supported, so.
For me, I think it'd be helpful to have a review of the commitments we've made out of the ARPA funding, how much it is, and what is unallocated at this point. So if you
And
can.
we have, it's great timing, because next week,
That's
Julie Willie will be here to do
perfect.
just that.
Great, that sounds like perfect timing, then we can make some decisions after that.
Yeah.
Well, if I could just speak really quickly and say thank you very much for your time and opportunity, and we look forward to hopefully establishing something that can be very impactful for our business community and residents here in the city of Everett. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Gary, and thank you for serving the city, and thank you, Wendy. Okay, we are going to move on. Let's see, what do we got here? We're moving on to council comments and liaison reports. Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, one thing, the group, the Puget Sound Regional Council's Transportation Policy Board, Federal Transit Administration Funding Work Group, which started, kind of gathered in August last year, meetings September through last week, did come up with a recommendation for a funding scheme. I was part of a minority group in terms of trying to do more for some lower income and disadvantaged parts of our population, better equity focus. We got an improvement in that. We didn't get as much as I had hoped, but there will be increased funding for Everett Transit for that, and then more going to other agencies like Community Transit, Sound Transit, and King County Metro, and then some in Pierce County as well. So that recommendation was arrived at with the majority and minority versions, went to the Transportation Policy Board, was recommended there. It goes on to the Executive Board, and I think that's now done. So just one of those other mechanical things that goes on, but hopefully will be some additional funding in years 2025 and on, I think, not 2024. And I think that's all I had tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you. Good evening. Good sunny evening, everybody. On Monday, I attended the Port Gardner Neighborhood Association meeting, and Officer Summerfeld joined and fielded some very difficult questions from the crowd, so he did a fantastic job, so shout out to Officer Summerfeld. Folks that were at the meeting, a number of folks shared continuing concerns and frustrations about ongoing drug use and criminal activity in the downtown core, so just wanted to pass that along as just continued frustrations from the community. And I know we're working really hard, and with the mayor's directives that were passed along last Thursday, there's a lot of work to be done on that, but I just wanted to share that feedback. Yesterday, I attended, happy Pie Day yesterday, everybody. I attended the Pisces Pie grand opening up on, 1502 Rucker, I believe. And so it was a great space and really great pie. I encourage everybody to go, and just a general comment about how just little neighborhood nooks and spots like that are just such a fantastic third place that really help a neighborhood thrive. So I'd love to see support for more of those across the whole city. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Fosse.
I agree, it's delicious pie. And if you don't mind, I'll just introduce my little cohort right here. Hey, Eddie, you want to say hi? Hi. This is my son. He is playing council for the day. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge that the mayor's address this week she did a wonderful job representing Everett, and I really appreciate it. One of the initiatives that I wanted to talk about was the potential, we'll call it STAMP, which stands for Stadium, Amphitheater, and Park Project. And it's one of her initiatives, and I'm very excited about it. So there is a small committee, a feasibility study that I attended a meeting, and just wanted to give you an update that really we're working on is evaluation of locations, a partnership. I mean, this is going to be a big community effort, including the school district, Aqua-Sox, Snohomish County, Snohomish County Sports Commission. And I really want to emphasize that the project is going to be more than about baseball. It's going to be, it's going to be a park. And at some point, I do believe we'll ask to have the project sent to our parks group to talk about the amenities. It's going to be that big of a park-based project. So I'm really excited about it, and there's just more to come. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Vogely.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because I was at the Riverside neighborhood last night, well, via Zoom, and for Councilmember Fosse, and they asked about you, so just so you know. And they had a lot of questions too, well, about the
STAMP project.
stamp. That's all I can think now, but what's it called?
Well, stands for Stadium.
Stadium. I don't know where the
Well,
word went.
It's
a
more
stadium.
than a stadium. We're
They
talking.
asked questions about more than the stadium.
Yeah.
And so I hope that you're all listening, Riverside, because there's your answer. And let's see, also yeah, it was a good group and had a good time listening to the Port of Everett and their stormwater, Blue Heron Slough thing that they had to say, storm management plan. Notes are not good. I did a really good job with the Economic Alliance, but now I'm just flopping. And I am sad to have missed the mayor's State of the City, total sickness in the house. So, but I did get to read about the directives. And so just thank you, Mayor, for putting all that information out there. I think I'm just going to stop right there. Thank you.
Thank you. And I had the opportunity to attend the Cultural Arts Commission meeting last night on Zoom, filling in also for Councilmember Fosse. And it was a good meeting. They have a few new members, but they spent a lot of time talking about the art piece that has been commissioned to commemorate. I would say commemorate. It makes it sound like it was fun, but to honor, I guess, the resiliency that we showed in our city and our residents showed in our city over the COVID-19 virus. They have sort of a piece of art that has been proposed by the artist, and there were a few questions details that needed to be kind of ironed out on that. And so because there were new Cultural Art Commission members, Tyler Chisholm, who staffs that committee, did a nice job of reviewing sort of how we got to where we were, which was nice for me because I hadn't been as intimately involved in those details. So anyway, it was a very good conversation. It sounds like the art's about getting close to being ready to be created. So they've got the plans, and it will be installed at South Everett Library Branch, and it's a beautiful piece. Look forward to seeing it down there. That's all I have. Do we have an administrative update this evening?
Just a brief public service message. The mayor's state of the city is available on our website. It was videoed, assuming there aren't challenges with the video, but it is available online.
Thank you. And Mr. Rammerman, what does the city attorney's office have for us this evening?
No comments and no executive session.
Thank you. We'll move on to our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the 5 consent items?
Councilmember Ryan moves approval of the 5 consent agenda items.
Seconded.
Motion and a second. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Zarlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yep.
Councilmember Fosse?
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab?
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely?
Yes.
President Stonecipher?
Yes. We have 2 proposed action items. I'm going to read item 6 into the record as it's a first reading. Council Bill 2303-15, first reading. Adopt an ordinance creating a special improvement project entitled WFP Phase 2 Capital Upgrades, Fund 336, Program 021, and repealing ordinance number 3870-22. The third and final reading for this item will be on March 29th. And then item 7 will have its third and final reading on March 22nd. Any questions or comments on the 2 proposed action items? Seeing none, we will move on to our council briefings. These items come before the city council serving as a council committee of the whole and are likely to be scheduled at a future meeting. Item 8 is Council Bill 2303-16, its first reading. Adopt the ordinance creating Department 030 in the general fund entitled Emergency Management. The third and final reading of this will be on March 29th, and we have Lori Cummings here to brief us.
A brief briefing. This ordinance will establish a new department in the general fund to account for all costs associated with the city's emergency management program. I think it's important to note this moves funding from our fire department, which was the department where these 2 positions were previously, into its own fund, and so we're not creating additional positions. Historically, the function has been located in the fire department with the director position filled by a fire division chief who retired recently. That was Brett Stainer. Because emergency management has a citywide role in coordinating operational readiness, revising the comprehensive emergency management plan, and providing disaster response and preparedness training for all city employees, local businesses, and the public. It's important to account for these activities in a standalone department that reports directly to administration. And so we made that change at the retirement of our current, the previous manager. It is also a function that would remain with the city should a regional fire authority be contemplated in the future. And just for frame of reference, a lot of municipalities have the emergency management under administration, some under fire, but many under administration. So I think it's a change that we're ready for.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Schwab, then Councilmember Ryan.
Yes, how many full-time employees then are you going to transfer over?
2. We have a director, Jim Sandy, who just started with us a week and a half ago, so I did not bring him tonight, but certainly we'll bring him to be introduced in the near future. And then an administrative coordinator, Vicki Fontaine.
Okay, and where will it be located? Will it be moved to the South Precinct?
They're currently in the Everett Municipal Building, 8th floor. And we're still, I wanted to bring Jim on board, and the mayor and I give him an opportunity to weigh in on whether it makes sense to create offices at the Emergency Operations Center in the future. But we felt like there was a lot of support, that he could gain by being in the municipal building initially.
I suppose there's going to be some more room there at the South Precinct now that snowpack or
In
dispatch
the
is leaving.
future, right, yeah, we'll be needing to have some discussions about that
Yeah.
space when snowpack begins to
Or
exit.
Snow 911.
Excuse
Sorry,
me,
it
so
changed,
nine-
right?
so
Yeah.
911.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ryan, and then Councilmember Vogely.
I just had the questions about staffing, but I'd love to have a tour of the Emergency Operations Center. That sounds neat.
Yeah, I think one of the initial conversations the mayor and I had with our director was to begin to look at what information and education we need to bring our council members up to. At this point, we did have a comprehensive emergency management plan update about a year ago, but it's it'll be time soon to do that.
Thanks.
Yeah, quick comment on that. There are some plans that we may report to the Operations Center if there are some major decisions facing our whole community
Yeah.
at that location, so. We're in that plan.
Yeah.
Councilmember Vogely.
We're in that plan as council members, and my husband is also certified. So, okay, the two positions are just moving, so it's a transfer, no big deal, no change of whatevers. I just want to say that this is exactly, I think, how I've been wanting it to happen, and how I think it usually happens when we have a new department, and we have a new 032 is what it is, going from 030. Come bring it by, let us know about it. Fantastic.
Creating a new fund in our general fund
Yeah.
is something that we bring to council.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll just add, I'm really glad to see that we're doing this. I think it brings visibility to the need for emergency management coordination across the entire city. And while I'm sure they will do a lot of their work directly with the fire department and probably the police department, it's good to see that it's brought onto its own department. So I like that. So we will see this on the 29th on our agenda for approval. Next, we have our surface water compliance specialist, Dana Zlateff from Public Works. Is that here to present on item 9? Welcome, Dana.
My mic is on,
And
great.
the item is the resolution adopting the North Creek Stormwater Management Action Plan.
Great. So yes, I'm Dana Zlateff, and in Public Works, Surface Water Compliance Specialist, and then accompanied, sorry, yes.
You might need a movement of the microphone more towards you because I can't hear you very well. And so I bet Bebo or Jeff would come out and do the same thing.
Better?
Yeah.
I'll lean.
Okay, sorry, and thank you.
So I'll start that again. So I'm Dana Zlateff. I'm in Public Works, Surface Water Compliance Specialist, accompanied by Surface Water Manager Heather Griffin. And I'm here today to provide a briefing on our Stormwater Management Action Plan. It's specific to the North Creek Basin. I was actually here back in June of 2022, kind of filling you in about the process. And today is an update of where we are now. And just to recap, the city has a permit with the Department of Ecology. It's called a Western Washington Phase 2 Municipal Stormwater Permit. It has a number of programmatic elements of which the city of Everett is required to implement to stay in compliance with this stormwater permit. One of those elements is called stormwater planning. So the stormwater planning element actually has a few phases, which we've already accomplished, but I will do a recap in a few slides. But this is the last element that's due at the end of this month, and it is a plan for North Creek for the stormwater management actions. So really, the goal of this plan that was provided to you to read ahead of time is very specific to North Creek. And its goal is to really basically alleviate existing stormwater problems. Where can the city do projects or management actions to make a benefit to our receiving water? And that receiving water we chose as a priority is North Creek. And in doing so, to meet our future and development targets. So we're very aware that development's happening, population is growing, but what can we do to alleviate some stormwater and better our receiving water in North Creek? So as I said, I was going to recap kind of how we got to where we are today. Back in March of 2022, the city adopted our surface water comprehensive plan. That plan actually went through very thoroughly and provided our stormwater management influence and receiving water quality to all 22 basins in the city. From that, we further prioritized where we as the city could maybe target specific projects and started prioritizing basins really based on what land use was in those drainage basins, also where we knew development was occurring, where areas would be left untreated, and so where we could kind of go in and take a look at. We also were wanting to focus on high ADT roads, where we have maybe opportunities to do treatment where these roads may not be treated in the future because we don't have development triggering them to become treated. So those were all aspects. So we got to this prioritization phase, and then we picked Merrill Ring, Penny Creek, North Creek, and Swamp Creek to really focus on. North Creek really came to the forefront for us to actually develop a plan. And that was based on stakeholder input, council presentation, outreach with a virtual platform, and really determining where we as a city can to make a difference in our receiving water. So again, North Creek was picked also because it's a headwater to other communities downstream, right? And we also knew that other jurisdictions were going to look at North Creek as well. So collectively, there was many opportunities along the corridor. So the Stormwater Management Action Plan is very specific in our permit of elements of which we're required to cover. And that is broken into stormwater facility retrofit opportunities and where their locations could be, land management and development strategies, as well as targeted programmatic stormwater management actions. And I'm going to talk through each of those. We're required to implement a schedule, a budget, timeline, and really the timeline is focused in the permit on short-term and long-term. So short-term is 0 to 6 years. So in our plan, you'll see a lot of short-term actions that would occur anytime between that 0 and 6 years. And then all the long-term is 7 to 20 years, sometime in there. So the first element is where there are opportunities to actually put something in the ground to provide treatment to areas that may not be treated now. This was actually, if you had a chance to look at our Stormwater Management Action Plan, it's actually very detailed to get to these 3 projects. In a summary, we really broke down the North Creek Basin into 30 catchment areas and looked at land use opportunities, where we could put a project in, where we can have the most benefit to a basin, and really what that showed is that the upper portion of our North Creek Basin had the most opportunity, mostly because of land use, area that was untreated, area where development may not get us to where we wanted to go. So that is why the focus is in the north end. So we decided on 3 projects. The first one is the 3rd Avenue Water Quality Project. This is a short-term action that's actually in design phase now, and about 30% design and planned to be constructed in 2024, 2025. The 2 other projects are large stormwater retrofit projects in our long-term action. And the benefit of all of these projects is basically going to treat 45% of our impervious surface area in the North Creek Basin, which will result in 50% of that whole basin now being treated because of these 3 projects. And I do want to say, and if there's questions afterwards, we really looked at like doing multiple small projects, large regional projects, and the cost benefit risk assessment for those, and really felt like we got the most bang for our buck to be able to implement these 3 projects and treat this amount of area. So besides going in and building something, there are land management actions that we are proposing in the Stormwater Management Action Plan. They're all short-term actions. One is to assess stream buffer widths. Like, what is in our critical areas ordinance now? Is it suitable? Should it be more? Should it be less? What are the adjustments? So it's really developing an assessment for that. We're aware that our tree code ordinance is being reviewed and hope to be updated in the future. So we have put it in our short-term plan to occur within the next 6 years, probably toward the later end, 2026. And then we've been working for a long time, and we're in that transitioning to stormwater billing based on impervious surface rather than water consumption rates, so that you get an idea of impervious surface on your parcel and you're paying the appropriate rate for what pavement you have. So we also have programmatic actions, and this would be throughout the North Creek Basin. Much of our North Creek Basin, especially in the south end where we do not have the larger retrofit projects occurring, we do have a lot of multifamily residents that we do want to focus on. A lot of North Creek has multifamily. And so we started a source control program in January of this year, and really that's a business inspection program. It is a permit requirement also by the Department of Ecology, but it's very focused on industrial, commercial, those higher pollution sources. And this is saying we're going to continue that program, but we're also going to focus on our multifamily in North Creek. We've been working with a lot of our multifamily for pet waste education already, so this is a really nice added action for us to continue those efforts. Streets, as I mentioned before, one of our metrics of why we were focusing on North Creek and also why we chose to do stormwater projects where we are is we really wanted to be able to grab and treat segments of Everett Mall Way and Evergreen Way. And so those projects do that. But we have a lot of other higher ADT roads in North Creek, and so street sweeping certain times a year, especially before we get our first rains near the end of the summer into the early fall, is something we're going to increase. If you didn't know, most of North Creek is actually dry most of the summer and doesn't really start flowing until September. And so this street sweeping, the time that the rains come, and so much of the contribution into our receiving water is from our impervious surface. This is great timing for us to do a very planned action at that time of year. And then our last short-term programmatic action is to inspect and continue to inspect private stormwater facilities for their operation and maintenance. So most of our, parcels and businesses, they have private stormwater treatment devices that we want to make sure that even though they've been there for so long, that they're working, and we are dedicating to continue that in North Creek as part of this Stormwater Management Action Plan. So really where we are now is we did SEPA, public notice went out on February 28th, so the comment period ended, I think, yesterday. And then presenting to you all, and then we do have a grant with the Department of Ecology, which this is funded through as well. So we're working with them on comments that they've also had on our Stormwater Management Action Plan. And we will be revising that and asking for resolution to adopt this plan, and then submit it to the Department of Ecology by May 31st of this year.
It's coming up.
Yes. So thank you, and if you have questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you very much. The map that you showed is super teeny small, and it's even smaller, I think, on here, so I might have been able to read it better. But is there a better map somewhere?
That is
And-
super tiny, besides our report. Oh, yeah.
And it
is
might be in the
online?
book from like 2017, I don't know. I was
Actually, I'm
looking at
really
that.
glad that you mentioned that. So we spent a bit of time online providing a story map. And
Okay.
so that actually map should be online because we
Okay.
have public comment through
yeah,
that
this
portal. That's a good avenue as well as the report itself.
Thank you.
Yes.
Because I'm pretty sure my house is in the green section. So, and taking walks all around, and I guess this doesn't really have to do with what you're actually asking of us. But when a person is walking around the neighborhood and there's City of Everett fenced off places because it's a wetland or a marshland or it doesn't look wet, or maybe it is really wet, I'm not remembering seeing North Creek. And so I'm wondering if all of the North Creek spots are either A, on a map, or B, is there a sign that says what creek they're at? I know a few of them do because I've seen them.
Few of them do,
But
but
not
not
all of them.
all of them.
Okay.
No, and North Creek has many, many branches, which makes it really unique. But yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Okay, so
And
I
there
was,
is a
that,
nifty map.
yeah, I mean, oh, cool, oh, cool. So that was just a curiosity because I have that in my head. Thank you. I'm just full of curiosity, so
Thank you.
thanks for all of that.
Councilmember Zarlingo and then Councilmember Schwab.
So I think North Creek goes south, kind of behind Mill Creek Town Center, North Creek Park, I think, farther south, the place with the boardwalks, and then some Amish Slough and Lake Washington.
Yep,
and-
Lake Washington
and some-
watershed.
Okay. One question about the impervious surface building. That's going to be applying to commercial and multifamily residential, but not single-family. We'll continue to bill single-family surface water charges as we have been.
That's a good question.
It was offered a transition, but it might be a flat rate for their residences. I don't know if I should come up there.
You can come up here.
So Heather Griffin, Surface Water Manager. So I'm not officially part of that transition team. The finance manager is doing that. But what I understand is they looked at flat rates for certain sizes, obviously, of homes that are common. So that is going to transition to an impervious surface-based fee. I can't remember if there's another element to it, but obviously with businesses or commercials or
Yeah.
other kinds of properties, there's more of a direct measurement with that impervious surface, so,
Yeah, with the residential, have an assumption based on
yeah.
square footage or lot size or water.
Right.
Well, I think it's on water use now, or is it I think it's based on water use
It's
now,
on
isn't it?
potable, yeah, domestic water usage, which is not a great corollary, especially for where we are today with our program. So they looked at, you're right, like different lot sizes and different kinds of housing and things like that. So we could have our finance manager get back to you if you want
No,
more
that's
information.
as close as I need for now. Thank you.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yeah, just to make a comment, I just really want to thank the city staff and for your hard work. And as Councilmember Lingo said about the Sammamish watershed, it's hard to imagine the things that you do when you walk down the street can affect several different types of salmon run. So I know environment protection is always a big issue, but surface water is not really on the big radar culturally, but I think it's very important, has a significant impact. So thank you.
Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you, this actually is pertinent. Yeah, sorry, there's an elephant in the room. Excuse me, sir. Eddie? Hey, Eddie, can you get on that side? That'd be great. But anyways, I'm thrilled. Okay, so impervious surfaces, this also brings me back to, so there's fees and this and that. I'm in an area where I'm part Mukilteo, I don't know, I get a flat rate Mukilteo and a water rate from Everett. Will what you are bringing to us affect how we are charged for water and the city Is that a whole nother financial analyst question? I bring it up all the time because I swear somebody said very recently, like in the past 4 years, oh yeah, we're gonna redo that and we're just gonna get Everett with Everett water. But right now I'm not, so I don't even know.
Yeah, so we are a combined utility, but it sounds like you're in an area where you might have a special purpose district doing either sewer, is that right, or water? We do
Yeah.
have a few spots where like Mukilteo Water District or
Yes.
Silver Lake Sewer District kind of serve maybe one of the
I pay
utilities.
2 bills.
Yeah.
So.
But for surface water, you're going to have a City of Everett fee, and that's what we were talking about, the transition to that impervious surface measurement. So, so in the short-term action, that's our goal or action is to transition from what kind of water you're drinking, right? Which doesn't make sense to be billing on that, but more of what you're doing with your land and how much runoff you're causing.
So another thing, so considering, okay, so you've built a house, it's already there, then you put in a cement slab, that's totally impervious, and I imagine there's probably a permit for that, which isn't your department, but will that then get, calculated into how much impervious surface, or is there just kind of like gonna be you have this much square acreage, square footage of land, and this is what we think you probably have impervious surface on?
Yeah, I think it depends if you're a commercial business or industry, that measurement will be looked at. If you're falling within the envelope, if you will, of a common development for a house or, resident, then I think that's gonna be more of a flat fee, so not like, just as long as you're not going crazy, right?
Right, I'm just
Buying up
gonna
a whole
pave the whole
neighborhood
thing.
or, yes, something
Okay,
like that.
thank
So,
you,
yeah.
that's all.
Councilmember Sterling, go.
I know the tribes have taken a great interest in surface water quality, and you're doing something that seems right in line with the kinds of things they want done. Is there a role for the tribes in this, and does that happen now, or when you work with
So
ecology?
we've engaged them this whole time. So Muckleshoot and Tulalip tribes have been engaged since the beginning. We have not got comments, but have reached out as stakeholders, which we have a very extensive stakeholder list in our SMAP, our Stormwater Management Action Plan report. We've also reached out to both of our WIRAs, so we're part of WIRA 7, Everett is, and 8. Of course, North Creek is in WIRA 8, which is our Lake Washington watershed basin. So we've reached out to both of them. I should mention too, projects such as these, we want on their radar too, because we're planning, to go after grant funding in the future. And so the Lake Washington watershed, WIRA 8, WIRA 7 offer cooperative grants. Department of Ecology having a plan such as this that really shares that we did a grant with the Department of Ecology and that they're going to be asked for in the future for grant funding is also something we're trying to highlight in the report so that we can leverage those funds in the future. So we definitely reached out to
Great, glad to
tribes
see that.
and the
Thank you.
WIRAs.
Thank you. I just have a couple questions. You mentioned that one of the key goals is, or one of your actions is to update the tree management ordinance. I guess I always think of trees as being a good thing for stormwater, but you also mentioned the need to sweep the streets more frequently. Do we like trees or not when we're talking about stormwater management?
We like trees because
Okay.
think of it like an umbrella, right? So the more trees you have, the less rainfall you actually have to deal with and treat for stormwater. So that's number one,
Okay.
is a great element. There are umbrellas. 2, we want to see trees because they make us happy, right? Like our community loves to walk among nature. That's very important.
Oh, yes.
And then there are treatment elements of any vegetation that we have. So yeah, that's very important. The tree ordinance, it's very preliminary right now, but really looking at like where we can encourage our coverage, where we can keep what we have, and what can be removed. So it's very preliminary, but it's been a want for quite some time to grow that ordinance and that program.
Yes, and I served on council with Drew Nielsen, who was one of the initiators of the tree committee, which is part of the Parks Board now, and I was on the Parks Board a couple of years, and I know that they're trying to work on that as well. And then you mentioned that your efforts will result in 45% of the water being treated, and that will bring us up to 50%. Does that mean right now we're really only treating 5%?
That's true.
Oh, well, that
It's
was a good
eye-opening.
project to choose then.
That's why we
for that
chose
very
North
reason.
Creek
Yeah.
Basin out of the other 4 basins, because it was one of those basins that, there's a lot of development happening because of
Yeah.
so many other areas in the city and light rail and everything else that is going to increase development, but there are definite pockets in North Creek Basin that will never get touched. So,
Yeah.
yes.
Good, so good choice. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you. Any other last questions? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight, Dana. We appreciate
you
you. And
for your
Heather, thank you
time.
for coming as well. And I think that brings us to the end of our agenda. Let me find yes, with no executive session, we are now going to adjourn. Thank you.